When Muslims break the Ramadan fast, what do they eat? On today's menu.
Welcome to Istanbul, Turkey.
With one foot in the continent of Europe and the other in Asia, the city of Istanbul literally unites a multitude of cultures. It's the holy month of Ramadan, and Julia and her friends gather for the iftar feast.
The main dish.
A specialty bread, Ramadan pide.
This place is nearly 150 years old, and they still work the traditional way.
Classic Turkish dolmas.
She mixes it with her hands until the meat is creamy and silky.
The angelic dessert, goulash.
It's like eating wings of a fairy.
The sweet legacy of the Ottomans' Turkish delight.
Look at this pistachio, so vibrant. Istanbul was the meeting point for so many civilizations between the East and the West. Because of the Bosphorus, the harbors, this was a trading spot. My name is Hülya Ekşigil. We are in the middle of Sultanahmet, the heart of Istanbul. Now it's the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is the holy month when Muslims fast, according to sunrise and sunset. They don't eat during the daytime. You can't drink water, you can't eat a piece of bread, and you can't have sex also. Of course, we are not all devout Muslims. In this city, there are believers, there are unbelievers, there are people from other religions. So today, we are focusing on the feast part of it, not the fast.
Once the capital of the Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman empires, Istanbul had unprecedented access to new ingredients via the city's spice markets. While each empire had its own level of culinary sophistication, it was the royal chefs of the Ottoman Empire that perfected and refined the cuisine as we know it today, including the iftar meal.
Iftar is the meal you have after the sunset. Fasting ends up with feasting. Now we are here in the middle of the spice market and we're going to meet Sevim Gökyıldız, the lady who is going to prepare the iftar dinner for us.
Merhaba.
She's a very good cook. She works on food, she writes about food, she's a foodie. Do you start your iftar dinner with dates or with olives?
I prefer with dates.
Yeah, most people prefer dates because Muhammad started his iftar dinner with a date.
Yes, this is a religious reason.
Yeah.
In the Ottoman time, this was a commercial hub.
Ama hep böyle, ben kaç kere geldim.
There was a many shop from Egypt, from Europe. Bunlardan natural olanlar.
She's bargaining to get the best ones, you know.
Tamam.
It's an ancient city. Since the middle of 16th century, Ottomans lived here. It's the Roman culture, the Byzantium culture combined and melted in a pot. Look at the line for the coffee.
Waiting to buy Turkish coffee.
It's madly crowded.
Bir tane 100 gramlık istiyorum, bir tane.
They shaped this city. They left marks on the city. This is what makes Istanbul, Istanbul.
I will pay.
And it's reflected in the food. We have rice pilav from Iran culture. We have baklava from Middle East. You have olive oil. You have the meat dishes. You have the egg dishes. You have the pastry. So many varieties. There are so many old recipes. And the Ottoman palaces were the perfect places for all those dishes to get their final sophistication.
Now we will buy pastırma.
What you see hanging over me are pastırmas. This is the famous dried, cured Turkish beef. It's quite expensive, but during Ramadan, you feel that you deserve it.
Yapar mısınız?
It's more precious when he does it by hand because the machine cut pastırma is very regular. This is very special. And he knows how to do it perfectly. When we get closer to the iftar hour, half an hour before the sunset, people gather from every part of the city to the places they can eat. You have to see it. The waiters put the olives, the dates, the pide all on the table. Warm, wonderful pides. People gather together, their stomachs grumbling. Even people at work, at a taxi stand, at a parking lot, and at the nicest and fanciest restaurant in Istanbul, and of course at homes all over the city.
Türk
And right at sunset, something magical happens. From all around the city, you hear the imam sing the call to prayer. Even if you're not a believer, you feel you're in the middle of something very mystical, telling everybody it's time to eat.
Now we can all break our fast.
What exactly is the time for Ramadan?
Ramadan is based on the lunar calendar. You can imagine that during centuries, Ramadan moves around the year, and it can be during summer, during the fall, it can be any time.
At tonight's iftar, first of all, we are having jams, olives, dates, and pastırma. They all go very well with pide.
It's simple to see you are not used to this culture and eating, because when you look around, we all have pide. You just take a good bite. She made a sandwich. You made a sandwich. Something from a deli in Brooklyn.
Possibly one of the oldest forms of Turkish flatbread, pide has become an ever-present symbol of Ramadan. In an old neighborhood along the Bosphorus on the Asian side of the city, bakers prepare pide the way it's always been made for hundreds of years.
The name of the bakery is Has Fırın. This is one of the most famous places in Istanbul. It's nearly 150 years old, and they still work the traditional way. The baker is Satılmış Avcı. He says for the pide, you use a high-quality grain, extremely fine. It's a special softer wheat produced only for the Ramadan time, so that they are crispy outside but soft inside. And then they mix for a long time, at least 1 hour. They put also ice cubes in it. Ice helps the dough not to rise too soon. Meanwhile, they are also cutting into the mix, leavening. Once the dough is ready, they cut it into pieces. And it should be exactly 460 grams. You put it on wooden slabs. In Turkish, we call them kürek. Sprinkled with whole wheat, so the bottom side gets crunchy like a crust. The dough should rest there another hour, and it should rise. With their fingers, they give it a traditional form for pide. For some pides, they use eggs on the surface. In traditional neighborhoods, people actually bring their own eggs to the bakery so that the baker uses it on the pides so it looks shinier. Once they are formed, they go into the heat. This place makes 2,000 loaves of pide every day. It's hard to give an exact date, but as far as we know, the shape of the special bread, its circle form, came from the Ottoman times, nearly 1,000 years.
The main dish. Where is the yogurt? It's coming. We have only 2 hands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love pilau.
In the old days, in Ottoman days, when you took on a new cook, you always got him to make pilau. Sure.
Maybe you want yogurt?
Yeah, sure. What do you call these in Turkish?
Dolma, which means stuffed.
We have 3 different kinds of the dolma. Kabak dolması, zucchini, domates dolması, it's tomato, and biber dolması, stuffed peppers.
You can't talk about Turkish food without talking about stuffing. Throughout history, Turks have managed to stuff just about everything, from fruit to fish to the classic stuffed vegetables that Savine prepares for this meal. Dolmas can be found throughout the Middle East, from Bulgaria to Iran, but their origin is proudly Turkish.
This is delicious. How did you make this?
I cut the zucchini and the tomato and green pepper. Very gently clean all of this one. This part I will use in the stuffing.
I can taste parsley, fresh mint, and dill.
Ooh, the smell of the mint. Spring onions as well.
Yes,
Right? Lots
yes,
of spring onions.
yes.
She adds the herbs to ground beef and rice. And then she mixes it really, really well with her hands until the meat is creamy and silky.
My favorite dolma, we don't have them tonight. It's
What's
eggplant.
that? Dried eggplants. It was summertime. They used to dry these vegetables, core them and dry them so that they could use it in the wintertime. We don't have to do that anymore, but we still keep doing it because those dolmas are really something.
In the old days, they used to stock carrots.
Carrot this big.
You don't get them nowadays.
Shall I tell you something more crazy? In the very, very old days, they used to stuff okras.
Really?
Yes, yes, okras.
Yeah, but then don't forget they were big.
They were bigger, yeah, but still they were okras. This is really very light and delicious. The texture is wonderful.
That is the difference between a chef and a cook.
And of course, at tonight's iftar, the meal ends with wonderful güllaç.
The dish itself is called güllaç, and the sheets is called güllaç yaprağı, the leaf of güllaç. I went to this amazing place seeing how güllaç sheets are prepared. So much experience and attention goes into that simple sheets of güllaç. You have to see it.
Created by the Sultan's own pastry chefs at the Topkapi Palace, Rose Scented Goulash, a multi-layered milk-soaked dessert served at lavish feasts during Ramadan, is still the epitome of Ottoman sophistication.
What's special about this place is this family has been in güllaç business since 1881.
What is it, a sort of father to son, passed on from generation to generation?
And mother to daughter. Neslihan, 5. generation. 5th generation. They are immigrants from Crimea after the Crimean War. They came to Istanbul and they needed a job and they started this business. I think this is the only family who has this business for so long. So we are in the right place for güllaç. What I find most fascinating is it's a very, very simple batter. Just cornstarch, wheat flour, and water, that's it. They would have a ladle full of liquid batter and then just pour it over, and the pan is like an overturned wok.
Yes.
It's not flat. The process of a sheet takes about 4.5 minutes. Güllaç sheets are cooked in 3 different stages. Kısık orta. It goes to the highest flame first. It sort of steams there. You can see the water
Steam coming
evaporate. Then there is a low flame. It cooks through on that. So then they move it to the last flame, which is medium heat. And there it dries and separates from the pan. They have this great feeling for it because they have been doing it for ages, and these people know exactly when to do what. The sheets have to be just enough dry so they would never stick together and still retain some moisture so that they can be flattened, otherwise they will just crack. They stack all the güllaç sheets and then put a press on it till it flattens. Kaç kilo bu ağırlık? 15 kilo. It weighs 15 kilos, so it's quite heavy. I cannot even lift it. Everything is with experience, with feeling. Timing. Timing in the sense that you have the drying process and the timing of experience. This is the magic of güllaç. It's translucent, It's like having moonlight in your hands. The magical thing in güllaç comes from its simplicity, yet it's so complex. Thin sheets, just soaked with perfumed, sweetened milk. It's like mother's milk. The basic way of making it is just milk with sugar and the güllaç sheets. It's like cake rising. You actually see that it's absorbing the milk. Little valleys and hills. It's a geography forming. The traditional thing is with walnuts, but you can make it with pistachios or almonds. You can use even hazelnuts. This reminds me of the güllaç of my childhood because it has pistachios and the pomegranate seeds. When I was small, I was, sort of imagining the pistachios as emeralds and pomegranates as rubies, and so that was
Actually a luxurious lady.
I hope life has been good to you and you now have your emeralds.
I have the
your
emeralds and rubies in my plate, not fingers. The secret ingredient, rose water. Just sprinkled over like a veil. I think really it adds a touch of magic.
It's heavenly.
There's something so interesting about the contrast in texture, how you have something so light and smooth and silky and then crunchy, and you have this little burst of pomegranate that just gets your attention and awakens you again. It's very cool.
In Ramadan, you have fasting and feasting, celebrating with food. Very tasty. I'm not a religious person, but I think fasting is also to have the feeling for food again, the appreciation of food. Sweet, delicate, very refined. It's like eating wings of a fairy. Çok teşekkürler, elinize sağlık.
We finished the meal with coffee and Turkish delight.
This is the best brand of Turkish coffee. You wanna try?
It has become known as Turkish delight. Is it true that it was called Rahatul Hulkum?
Rahatul ulkum and then rahat lokum, they used to say. And then just
they said, why
lokum.
don't we say lokum?
It means easy to the throat.
A national obsession, lokum is considered one of the oldest sweets in the world. Over the years, the original recipe evolved so that today there are unlimited variations of this decadent ancestor of the jelly bean.
We're in the middle of Kadıköy market, in front of Şekerci Cafer Erol, the famous candy shop, and it's almost 10:30 p.m. This is Saturday night. You can hear the sounds, the discos and the music, but still upstairs there are lots of people working day and night just to keep up with the demand. The first Turkish delight shop in Istanbul opened at the end of 1700, and this place opened at the beginning of 19th century. Erol family has been producing Turkish delights almost 200 years.
Hemen hemen 15 kilo su katılır.
He says you prepare a Turkish delight with a good quality of water, cornstarch, sugar and citric acid. It boils for a while and changes the color from white to yellow. When it gets really thick, you pour the ingredients in it. It can be rose petals, it can be hazelnuts, pistachios, whatever you want to use. I love the smell in here. A little burnt sugar, some roasted nuts, rose petals, all mixed up together and formed something really delicious. You pour them into square wooden molds. They have to wait in those molds for at least 10 hours. In all of the Muslim countries, you can find jelly type of delights, and Turkish delight is one of them. But of course, like many of the tastes we have today, it got its perfect stage in the Ottoman times. Nurtekin Erol is the owner of this place, and he is 4th generation in this business. His daughter and his son, 5th generation.
We have a special photograph. This is a very historical and very important picture for us. We can see my grandfather, Cafer Erol, his daughter, my aunt, and the little boy, my father, in his childhood. We are so proud of it.
Look at this pistachio, look at this green. This is so vibrant. Yes, now I can speak. These are the delights with a layer of coconuts on them. You know, in the old days, because coconut was very expensive, the people used to call it Turkish delight with a fur. In the Ottoman times, they also had many varieties.
Rose.
Yeah, citrus,
Pistachios inside.
They even make chocolate ones.
fearless, I think. This is very special. Every year, Ramadan comes around bringing tastes of its own. The delicious warm pide, the delicate and attractive goulash, and the jewel of iftar tables, pastırma. In the old days, it's a custom for the rich people to feed poor people during Ramadan. They were giving big iftar dinners, inviting everyone. And at the end of the meal, the owners of the house used to give people little gifts. This means by joining my iftar dinner, you helped me show my good deeds to God. So I thank you for it. It's for everyone. That's what I like about it, you know. This cuisine is for everyone.